Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because their days look exactly the same as yesterday. And if yesterday wasn't working, why are you repeating it? Your life is not shaped by big moments. It is shaped by small habits repeated daily. The difference between someone who struggles and someone who succeeds is not luck, not background, not even opportunity. It is discipline in ordinary moments when no one is watching. If you can control your daily habits, you can control your future. And today, we are breaking down 5 daily habits that can quietly transform your entire lifestyle from the inside out. Most people underestimate what happens in the first hours of the day. They treat the morning like a continuation of sleep, rushing into noise, messages, and distractions without ever giving themselves a moment to actually take control. But the truth is simple. If you don't control your morning will control you. Waking up before the world wakes up is not just about time, it is about power. It is the first decision of the day where you choose discipline over comfort. When you wake up early, everything is quiet. There are no demands, no interruptions, no urgency from others. In that silence, you finally hear your own thoughts clearly. You can think without pressure, plan without confusion, and breathe without stress. This is the time where your mind is most honest with you, and if you use it correctly, it becomes the foundation of your entire day. People who consistently move forward in life understand this secret. They don't wake up and react. They wake up and design. They decide who they want to become that day before the world tries to decide it for them. Early mornings create a sense of control that cannot be replaced later in the day. Once the noise starts, your attention gets divided into pieces, but in the early hours, your focus is whole. You can use that focus to read, to plan, to exercise your mind or body, or simply to sit in clarity and set direction. And over time, this small habit changes your identity. You stop being someone who is always catching up and become someone who is always ahead of their own life. There is also a powerful psychological shift that happens when you wake up early. You start the day by winning. That first win, even if it is small, builds momentum. It tells your mind that you are in control, that you are capable of discipline, that you are not living randomly anymore. And once you start the day with control, you carry that energy into everything else you do. Decisions become clearer, reactions become calmer, and actions become more intentional. Many people think success is built in big moments, but in reality, it is built in these invisible hours when no one is watching. The early morning is not just extra time in your day, it is an advantage that compounds quietly over months and years. Those who use it wisely slowly separate themselves from those who don't, not because they are smarter, but because they are consistent with their time when it matters most. Most people don't realize how much their first few minutes of the day decide the direction of their entire mindset. The moment you open your eyes, your mind is like a blank screen, ready to absorb whatever you feed it. And in today's world, the easiest thing to reach for is the phone. Notifications, messages, social media, news, opinions, noise. Before you even take a full breath, your mind is already reacting to the world. But here is the problem. When you feed your mind chaos first, you don't get clarity later. You get more chaos. What you consume in the beginning becomes the emotional tone of your entire day. If the first thing you see is comparison, your confidence drops. If the first thing you see is negativity, your energy becomes heavy. If the first thing you see is distraction, your focus never fully recovers. Your mind is not a garbage bin that can handle everything without consequences. It is more like a garden. Whatever you plant first grows stronger because it gets the most attention. So when you choose to feed your mind with intention instead of impulse, something powerful starts to change. Imagine replacing the first 10 minutes of scrolling with reading something meaningful, listening to something educational, or simply sitting in silence and gathering your thoughts. In that space, your brain starts to wake up on your terms, not on someone else's algorithm. You begin the day with direction instead of reaction. There is also a deeper level to this habit that most people miss. When you consistently feed your mind positive and constructive input first, you train your attention to look for value instead of distraction. Over time, your thinking becomes sharper. You start noticing opportunities instead of problems. You start responding instead of reacting. This is not about avoiding technology or cutting yourself off from the world. It is about control. It is about deciding when and how the world gets access to your attention. Successful people are not always the ones with the most information, but the ones who know how to filter what matters. They protect their mental space in the morning because they understand that clarity is their most valuable resource. Once your mind is scattered, your decisions become weak. But when your mind is centered from the start, even difficult situations become easier to handle. And slowly, this simple shift changes your identity. You stop being someone who wakes up and gets pulled in every direction, and you become someone who chooses the direction first. Most people live their days in a comfort loop. They wake up, do what feels easy, avoid what feels uncomfortable, and repeat the same pattern again and again. Over time, this creates a life that feels stuck, not because opportunities are missing, but because courage is missing in small daily moments. Growth does not come from what is easy. It comes from what you resist doing but choose to face anyway. That is why doing one difficult thing every single day can quietly reshape your entire mindset and direction in life. A difficult thing is not always something massive or dramatic. It does not always require a big risk or a life-changing decision. Sometimes it is as simple as making that call you have been avoiding, starting the task you keep delaying, having the conversation you keep postponing, or sitting down to work on something you don't feel like doing. The size does not matter, the resistance does. Because every time you avoid something difficult, you train your mind to choose comfort over growth. And every time you face it, you train your mind to choose strength over fear. What most people don't realize is that fear loses its power the moment you act. In your mind, the difficult task becomes heavier and more complicated the longer you delay it. You imagine outcomes, you create pressure, you build stories around it. But the moment you step into it, you often realize it was not as big as your mind made it seem. This is how confidence is built, not by waiting to feel ready, but by acting while still uncertain. When you make this a daily habit, something powerful begins to shift inside you. Your tolerance for discomfort increases. Things that once felt intimidating start to feel normal. You stop negotiating with your excuses because your identity slowly changes from someone who avoids to someone who acts. And that identity shift is where real transformation begins. There is also a hidden strength that comes from this habit. It builds trust with yourself. Every time you do something difficult, you send a message to your own mind that you can be relied upon. And self-trust is the foundation of discipline. Without it, motivation collapses quickly. With it, even low-energy days don't stop you from moving forward. Over time, this daily practice creates momentum that compounds. You no longer wait for perfect conditions or perfect feelings. You simply act, even in small steps, and those steps quietly accumulate into progress that others can see but few can maintain. Most people spend their energy like it is unlimited. They give it to every conversation, every opinion, every problem, and every distraction that shows up in their day. And by the end of the day, they feel exhausted, not because they worked on what matters, but because they scattered themselves everywhere. Energy is not just physical strength. It is mental focus, emotional balance, and attention. And when you don't protect it, life slowly starts to feel heavier than it actually is. Protecting your energy begins with understanding a simple truth. Not everything deserves your reaction. There are people who will pull you into arguments that don't lead anywhere. There are situations that are designed to drain your attention without giving anything in return. And there are environments that quietly weaken your motivation without you even noticing it. If you respond to everything, you will eventually have nothing left for what actually matters in your life. One of the biggest shifts in life happens when you learn the power of saying no. Not from anger, not from arrogance, but from clarity. Saying no to unnecessary distractions means saying yes to your goals. Saying no to draining conversations means saying yes to your peace. Saying no to things that don't align with your direction means protecting your future. But many people struggle with this because they fear judgment. They want to be available for everyone, even at the cost of themselves. But here is what successful individuals understand deeply. Energy is a currency. Once spent, it does not come back instantly. That is why they are selective about where they invest it. They choose their battles carefully. They don't react to every opinion because they know attention is powerful. Whatever you give attention to grows in your mind. If you give attention to negativity, it expands. If you give attention to stress, it multiplies. But if you give attention to purpose, it strengthens your direction. When you start protecting your energy, your entire life feels different. You begin to notice that you are less reactive and more thoughtful. You don't feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't feel emotionally pulled in every direction. Instead, you start operating with calm focus. And that calm focus becomes your advantage in a world that is constantly distracted. Over time, people may not understand your boundaries, but your life will reflect the results of them. Because when your energy is protected, your focus becomes sharper, your decisions become clearer, and your progress becomes more consistent. And that is where real control over life begins. Most people feel busy all day, but still end up with nothing meaningful to show for it. They spend hours scrolling, switching between tasks, overthinking ideas, and escaping into distractions that give temporary comfort, but no real progress. It creates an illusion of movement, but in reality, they are standing still. The difference between a life that grows and a life that repeats is what you consistently choose to do with your time when no one is watching. Spending more time building instead of escaping is not about working non-stop or becoming overly serious. It is about direction. Every person escapes in some way. Some escape into social media, some into unnecessary entertainment, some into endless thinking without action. Escape feels easy because it removes pressure for a moment, but it also quietly delays your future. The more you escape, the more you postpone the life you say you want. Building, on the other hand, requires discomfort at the beginning. When you create something, learn something, or improve yourself, you face resistance. You may not feel motivated at first, and progress may feel slow, but this is where transformation actually begins. Because building forces you to stay present, to engage your mind, and to move from imagination into reality. Even small actions like writing a few lines, learning a new skill, organizing your thoughts, or improving one habit are forms of building that accumulate over time. The biggest shift happens when you stop waiting for perfect conditions. Many people delay their growth because they believe they need the right mood, the right timing, or the right environment. But those conditions rarely come. People who move forward are not always the most motivated. They are the most consistent. They understand that action creates clarity, not the other way around. Once you start building, even in small steps, your mind begins to align with progress instead of hesitation. There is also a powerful internal change that happens when you choose creation over escape. You start respecting your own time more. You begin to feel a sense of fulfillment that distractions can never provide. Even if your progress is slow, it feels real. Because deep down, you know you are not wasting your life in fragments of distraction. You are shaping it piece by piece. Over time, this habit compounds silently. What starts as small efforts turns into skills, results, and confidence. And slowly, without dramatic change, you become someone who doesn't just consume life, but actively creates it. Most people end their day in a way that leaves their mind full, but their life empty. They scroll endlessly, distract themselves, or fall asleep without ever truly reflecting on what kind of day they lived. And when this becomes a habit, days start blending into each other. Nothing is learned, nothing is corrected, and nothing truly improves. Life keeps moving, but the person does not evolve with it. That is why ending your day with reflection instead of distraction can quietly transform your entire future. When you take a few moments at the end of your day to think, you step outside the rush of life and look at it with clarity. You are no longer reacting, no longer rushing, no longer influenced by emotion. You are simply observing your own actions. You begin to see patterns that you normally ignore during the day. You notice what helped you move forward and what pulled you back. You start understanding your own behavior more honestly, without excuses or noise. This simple habit creates awareness, and awareness is the foundation of improvement. Without awareness, people repeat the same mistakes for years without realizing why their life is not changing. But when you pause and reflect, even for a short time, you begin to catch yourself. You start asking questions that matter. Did I use my time well today, or did I waste it on distractions? Did I move closer to my goals, or did I delay them again? These questions may seem small, but they slowly reshape your decisions. There is also a powerful emotional benefit to reflection. It brings closure to your day. Instead of carrying unfinished thoughts into the next morning, you release them. You clear your mind, which allows you to rest more peacefully. A calm mind at night leads to a stronger mind in the morning. And this cycle of clarity becomes a quiet advantage that most people never develop. Over time, reflection turns into self-correction. You no longer need big wake-up calls or external pressure to improve. You begin adjusting yourself daily in small ways. You become more intentional with your actions because you are aware that you will later review them. This awareness naturally guides you toward better choices without forcing it. Eventually, this habit shapes your identity. You stop living days randomly and start living them consciously. You become someone who learns from each day instead of losing it. And slowly, without noise or sudden change, your entire life begins to move in a more focused and meaningful direction. When these 5 habits become your daily identity, you don't just change your routine, you change your entire direction in life.